Welcome back to the OFFbit. Today we're going to go back and look at the Q8400, and specifically we'll be looking at Fortnite and how to run it on the Q8400. Last time we had this problem. So stick around as we grapple with the Q8400 and see if we can make it run Fortnite decently. Here we are, back with the Q8400. The Q8400 was released back in April 2009. It's a quad-core Core 2 CPU based on the Yorkfield architecture. Its stock frequency starts at 2.67 GHz. Now we've bumped it up to 3.1 GHz by overclocking the B clock value. Today we've loaded 6 GB RAM opposed to our original 4 GB, just to give us a bit more memory headroom. We're still running the P5G41T-MLX motherboard from Asus. It's a 775 socketed motherboard with a G41 chipset. We changed out the GTX 570 for a GTX 750. This is the 750, not the 750 Ti. This is running 2 GB of GDDR3 Ram. We're running the usual hard drives, a Western Digital Green 1TB and 2 Western Digital SSDs, one 240GB and one 120GB. And lastly today, our power supply is an Antec True Power Trio. It's a 550 watt power supply. Well, that's our loadout today. Let's start setting things up so we can play Fortnite. Okay, here we are. Let's talk about the recommended system requirements for Fortnite. The CPU is recommending a Core i5 760 2.8 GHz. The RAM is recommending 8 GB RAM and minimum 4 GB RAM. Fortnite is recommending the graphics to be a GeForce GTX 660 or a Radeon HD 7870. Minimum, we can use a GT 520 or an Intel HD 4000. Our 3.1 GHz overclock on the Q8400, I am hoping will give us a ballpark figure of the i5 760 performance. Okay, we're going to try and squeeze every ounce of performance out of this Q8400. So just going to run a couple of programs just to optimize Windows. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to hit the Windows key and pause break. This will bring up system properties. Then click on Advanced System Settings and go to Settings under Performance. And we're going to select Adjust for Best Performance. So I've already clicked on that, so we'll hit OK. Now if you don't have a pause break key, there's another way around it. Hit Windows R and type in sysdm.cpl. Now that will start up system properties. If you go to the Advanced tab, which is selected at the moment, and go down to Performance and in Settings, hit that button. And that'll take you to that menu. Now I've disabled my virus trigger, but you can put yours in game mode or just disable the real-time protection for a little bit and turn it back on after the game. The last thing I like to do is run a program called Inspector. You can get it from this URL, or if you just Google Inspector, you will find it. So this program just disables some of the updates for the microcode that your CPU has. It just gives you a bit more performance. Okay, we're going to go into the game. We're going to check our settings. We're going to set everything to as low as you can. So in settings, we'll set window mode to full screen. Resolution we'll leave at 920 by 1080. Frame rate limit we'll set to 60 frames per second. 3D resolution we're going to leave at 100%. All other settings we're going to set to low or near. Last thing we're going to do, we're going to click on this cog at the top and we're going to scroll all the way to the bottom. And we're going to set record replays to off. Okay, once we've done all this, we're ready to jump into the game. It's back to the bus and we're ready to roll. Immediately you can see on the left that the RAM we're using is instantly already higher than 4 GB. So having that headroom of 6 GB is definitely paid out already. We can see that some of the detailed models are a little bit slow to update, but by the time you fly in there and get to the area, you actually get the proper models. So the game is still playable. We're getting a pretty smooth frame rate at the moment. The game is definitely feeling something competitive that you can play with. We've got a couple of dips here and there, but it's feeling good at the moment. We still get the odd stutter as it loads in assets and renders. Okay, let's look into the performance breakdown. So the Q8400 running at 3.1 GHz with 6 GB RAM netted us an average frame rate of 52.3 frames per second. Our minimum frame rate fell to 15.3 frames per second, and our maximum frame rate was 60.6 frames per second. This is at that value because we set VSync for 60 frames per second in the settings. Our 1% loads was 16.4 frames per second, and our 0.1% loads was 1.6 frames per second. So there was some stuttering in the game, and most of this attributed from when we left the bus at the start. Now, wrapping things up, though this is not a perfect system, it is definitely something that you'd feel okay with playing with. You will get the frame drop out. There may be a couple of odd things here and there, especially once you jump out of that bus at the start. So the Q8400 with 6 GB RAM running at 3.1 GHz and loaded with a GTX 750 makes a playable machine, but not perfect. Now, reflecting at my last video with the 3.1 GHz overclock and just the 4 GB RAM, I think the extra 2 GB RAM just helped out. Just that extra bit of working space has definitely made the difference. Definitely for the old Core 2 quad, in my thoughts anyway. Now, if you still need to push out more performance, you can drop the resolution back to 720p. There's also a rendering scaler that's set to 100%. You could pull that back to 90 and it would probably still look alright. You'd probably especially want to look at this if you have a weaker GPU. Now, it always amazes me how much you can push old hardware just with a bit of overclocking and just a little bit of tweak on the operating system and the game you're running. Well, that's all we got today for the OFFbit. Hey, if you like this content, remember there's a like button, and if you want to see more of this stuff, hit that subscribe button. Now, if you want to talk about any of your experiences and old systems and how you've run Fortnite, there is the comments down there. So please leave a line. There's always people happy to help, and I do read them. Alright, till next time, we'll see you on the OFFbit.